Hey everybody, today's words to live by are: as far as I can tell, it's just about letting the universe know what you want and then working toward it while letting go of how it comes to pass. And those great words are from Jim Carrey. He spoke those words in an interview many years ago, and I happened to be listening to the interview and I wrote them down immediately. And I have a personal connection with Jim Carrey that I mentioned in another one of my videos in this series. And everything that he sort of speaks, I tend to understand right away. I can almost sort of envision exactly what he's about to say sometimes because I think he speaks a lot of truth. And I think in this case, with this quotation, he is basically telling us to set a target, do the work, and then release the timeline. And one of the favorite stories I've heard him tell is before he really got his big break in acting and in comedy. I think the story goes that he wrote himself a $5 million check. And so he made it out to himself. And he wasn't sure how he was going to make that money, but he just had this sort of big vision of potentially what it might be. And then lo and behold, a couple years later, he had no trouble writing himself or cashing that check that he wrote to himself. And so it's almost like he had that vision and he wasn't exactly maybe sure how it was going to pan out, but then it did. And he sort of let go of all of the intricate details of what he thought that path might look like. And so I think the point for all of us and how I've taken it over the years is big outcomes do not require perfect plans. They come from a clear intention, consistent work, consistent action, and then letting go of how it all arrives. And so it's almost like a paradox of progress in a way. You sort of aim boldly, you aim high, and then you hold the path lightly. So you declare your goal, you do your daily work, your daily reps, and then you sort of stay open to the unexpected or unexpected routes that might happen on your way to that big goal. And so I think that's how doors really open that maybe we can't engineer beforehand. And we can't force those types of doors to open beforehand. We have to sort of maintain some flexibility on the way towards where we want to go. So I think about this a lot and I've used it a lot in my life. So starting with tennis, when I was a little kid, I declared I wanted to be a professional tennis player. So that's a big goal, right? And there's a lot of steps along the way. And I didn't even know all the steps that probably were going to, be necessary for me to achieve that. And so I sort of set that goal. I went to work and I worked every day basically for 13 years. And, I just couldn't have imagined some of the doors that opened on my path. I couldn't have predicted it beforehand. And if I tried to, I would have probably fallen off track. And so lo and behold, 13 years later, the big goal sort of happened. And I think back to my business career, and I had big goals to be a chief marketing officer. And I didn't know the exact steps that would take, but all I believed about myself was that I had the personality and the intelligence and the skills to be able to do that. And so I sort of had that goal, but then I held on pretty loosely in terms of where that route might be sort of flowing on my way to CMO. And then I ended up doing it a couple times. And so I think about other smaller things in my life where they're sort of maybe not big goals, but they're sort of like intermediate goals. And you still do the same process, and it works because you sort of let go of the need to micromanage the process along the way. The only thing you can do is sort of micromanage your daily habits and your daily work, but you can't micromanage the entire process because there's no way to predict how it will all pan out in the end. And so I think the last part of this is that you, the viewer of this video, are actually living through an example of this right now with me, because I have a massive goal for this video series and what is possible for it. And I don't exactly know the steps that it's going to sort of unfold along the way towards that massive goal. And so the only thing I have is this sort of big vision, what I think is possible, And then it's steady work. It's like daily habits, daily work, lots of rewrites, lots of edits, and then ultimately trust of how it's going to unfold and in what time frame it's going to unfold, because I couldn't predict it. So I think the takeaway, if you're looking for something nice and short and sweet in this that I know works, is you sort of aim clear, work hard, and then hold on loosely. That's the takeaway for me. So if you enjoyed this reflection, please like and or subscribe. And don't forget, if you would like a paper copy, a book copy of Words to Live By, that is available on Amazon. I'll put the link in the comments. And thank you again for being here, and I will see you all again soon.